If you enjoy watching Common Ground online, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at lptv.org. Lakeland Public Television presents Common Ground, brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Hi, welcome to Common Ground. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. On this episode of Common Ground, meet Bob Larson and others of the Bemidji Wood Carvers Club.
My name is Bob Larson. I'm president of the Bemidji Wood Carvers Club. Most of us show up every Wednesday at the Senior Center and spend from 9 till noon carving, getting together, spend a little time learning, carving, and just plain talking. And this is the carving club. We have the same bunch most of the time, but not all the time. Better. Well, we get together, like I say, every Wednesday from 9 till noon and try and share what talents we have amongst the different people and carve on pieces that we've been working on, start new ones, and generally just try and share information as best we can and help one another get our pieces completed. What if you accentuated that one and brought it across that? Do that or make another one here? The club got started with just a number of people that were interested in carving and felt there should be a group that got together and did that and formed the Bemidji Carvers Club. Well, a lot of times they will have something that they can add to your piece. They have maybe a little bit different knowledge than you do. Sometimes they have a different idea. It's always better sometimes to have two minds thinking of the same situation, same problem. And by the same token, they may have a tool that you don't have that you can borrow, expertise that you can share, and talents that you can share. That's a lot of what we do is share talent. Well, if you're going to really get interested in carving, the best thing is to contact a fellow carver. Come down, join us on a Wednesday morning, spend a little time with us, see what we do, see what you're interested in. Don't buy anything until you talk to us. Every single one of us have got in our toolboxes at home probably a dozen tools that we wish we'd never bought and we don't need.
Wise, I tell you.
It's too easy to get pulled into something that looks good and then find out that you don't need it for the style of carving you're doing, or it just plain isn't a good tool. And speaking of good tools, one of the prime requirements, buy the best that you can afford. Don't buy cheap tools, you'll end up throwing them away. Or it will end up discouraging you so badly as a carver that you'll just quit because your tools are worthless. And we all have those kind of tools too.
I don't think so, but I'm sure feeling it.
It keeps us busy on a Wednesday morning. Most of us enjoy coming, and even in the cold weather, everybody will show up. In fact, in the wintertime, we usually have more than we do in the summer, except we lose a few snowbirds in the wintertime. Carving knows no gender. Women are as good as men, and there are as many women carvers as there are men carvers. It doesn't matter. And the women use as many power tools as men do and as many hand tools as men do. So it works out well. One of the things that I will say though is important for carving is you got to keep your hand strength up. Not always, but sometimes men tend to have a little bit more hand strength than women do, but that's the only difference. And power equalizes that up real quick. But that's one thing that I will say a person does have to do as we age. And have to keep the hand strength up in order to do the carving, because it does take some effort to push those tools through the wood.
Dogs, I tell you, Great Pyrenees, about 100.
And the other key thing then is the sharpness of the tool. You keep them sharp and they'll cut. You hear the old adage, nothing more dangerous than a dull tool. Well, that's pretty much, because it'll slip and you'll end up sticking it someplace where you don't want it stuck. If I'm going to start a new piece, first off, I try and have an idea in mind of what I'm going to do. Am I going to carve a face? Am I going to carve a mountain man? Am I going to carve a caricature piece? Am I going to do a cottonwood bark house? Then I go find a picture or a piece that I like or an idea that I like. I don't use live models. Unfortunately, it's hard to find some people that want to sit still for anywhere from 40 to 200 hours while I work on a piece. Then I have to find the wood. Then you lay the wood out, and oftentimes I have to find a bandsaw, if mine isn't big enough, to cut the piece out so that I have removed as much wood as I can, as expediently as I can, before I sit down and start carving on it. Continually checking your measurements and your idea, your photos, if that's what you're working from, to try and keep things lined up as you go. And as you carve off more wood, you end up using finer tools, and you get to the point where you're down to sandpaper. A lot of people don't sand their carvings. Some people would figure it's somewhat sacrilegious to sand on a carving. I don't, because I'm working on women's faces and they're smooth. I don't like leaving them rough. We have our yearly sojourn down to Doane College in Crete, Nebraska. Every year I go down there for a week, and I just go down there to learn as best I can. Usually I carve with a woman by the name of Janet Cordell, probably one of the best female carvers in the country. She's responsible for my carving women's faces as well as I do. So actually I just work away, start putting the cheeks in place, getting a general shape of the face down. Now I have some hair that's going to be coming down on the forehead, so I have to be careful on not cutting off all that hair all of a sudden. And I have to mark those in now. If I don't put it in now, obviously I can't add it in later. So I have to kind of work around some of that, try and knock this back down in to a forehead level here, in between the locks of hair, without actually breaking them off, because the bark is somewhat brittle. And then I can start coming up the sides of the nose with a little bit steeper gouge. Well, right now I'm trying to lay out this cottonwood bark face and get some semblance of structure first. I have to, obviously the nose is going to be the high point on the face, so I have to make that the high point and then push everything back in the wood in order to make eyes and forehead, and then lay out the mouth below that to where the structure is a little higher than what the eye level is. The neck obviously has to be driven back quite a ways here. So right now I'm just taking off wood to get to the fun part of making a face in this carving. This is just, you have to kind of know not to take off too much, but it's basically a lot of just quick wood removal to get it down and have it to where you can use the finer tools to get the structure down. Cottonwood bark carves very easily. It's smooth, it's easy to remove, it's soft. One of the problems with it is it has a tendency to be brittle, so when you start working on fine detail, it will chip out where you don't want it to. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that your detail is going to be not quite as fine as you can get in basswood, but you can still do fine detail if you're careful with it. One of the things is that being so soft, it will easily dent to the point where you can even make a dent in it with your fingernail, to the point where it will actually dent the wood. So you have to be kind of careful when you're using your tools that you don't bang the handle of your tool someplace where you don't want a mark. As in going across here, you could end up beating the end of the nose up bad enough that then when it's time to carve that, it's all nicked up and you'll have to take parts off of that too. So it has to be treated a little special, but then considering where this stuff comes from, cottonwood bark like this is kind of special bark. This is getting harder and harder to find as people realize the joy of carving cottonwood bark and the uniqueness of the pieces you end up with. It is getting hard to find because you cannot get cottonwood bark off a live tree. And that's a good deal, because if you could, there wouldn't be any live trees with bark on them anymore. They have to be dead. The wood has to naturally dry off to the point where it's almost ready to fall off the tree, and then they'll come by and harvest it and break it into length that's usable. Normally this bark is found Missouri Valley and north. all the way up into Alaska. Southern United States, you don't get bark like this at all. They have cottonwood trees, but they don't produce bark like this. High mountain river valleys is where you're going to find this big bark, and they're not easy to get to, especially where you can haul out the amount that's usable. And now it gets time where I have to sit down and do some measurements and layout again.
Practice dentistry. Yeah, I see it too.
I do have one, but with super glue in it.
Well, just little diamond stones. As soon as the sandpaper looks, see it like out here, and you know, I got four right well, let's set that time, you know, clogged up for whether it's like the wood's a little wet or it's too fine, and I just set that on there like that, and it just cleans that.
It gets to the point where it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on, but carvings usually reach a critical point where it doesn't take the removal of much material to either make it or break it.
But that's kinda neat, cause I can sit there and,
Well, I'm about ready to take her off of this frame. It gives me the opportunity to be able to turn it at different angles and look at the whole piece a lot better than trying to work around this carving fixture. And now it's getting to the point where I don't need to use push on it. It's mostly detail work left now. All of the features are in, and I just need to refine them, tweak the cheeks a little bit to get them back a little bit and form better. The chin needs to come down and the jawline needs to be a little thinner. The neck is probably going to have to go back in a little bit, although the features are there with the collarbone and the muscles in the neck. I've had to deal with the unfortunate circumstance of losing part of the nose and having to repair it. There's a plate across the hair that came loose and had to be glued back on. I had to make sure that the cheeks were on there because it's one layer of grain all the way down through, and it's the same layer that's going to give you problems. I even had it to the point where I had to re-glue the last ½ inch of the nose on. As I was carving it, it just flaked right off, fell off into the chip pile, and I never did find it. So I had to take another piece of wood from lower on the piece where it had to be removed anyways, glue it on there and recarve it. And it actually matched up pretty good. The grain looks like a pretty fair match to it. Super glue is a cottonwood bark's best friend. You can repair almost anything. You put the super glue onto it, let it soak in, and when you're done carving it off, it'll very seldom show at all. At the very most, you might see a tiny little shiny spot here and there. So it's easily repairable with some good super glue. And the grain always makes the piece look interesting, if not better. Some people say it detracts from the carving, and in some situations it will. I would say that right now I'm about a little over half done. It may look more than that, but actually in time, it's probably a little over half done. So basically it's time to take her off of this frame. I have the long screws that I put into the back side through the framework that holds it on. So, well, this is the back side. This is where it comes off the tree. This dark part would have been right against the tree itself. Cottonwood bark carving is getting to be more and more popular, and good bark like this is getting harder and harder to find. Now you say, well, what do you mean good bark? It's falling apart in 3 or 4 different places on you. That isn't the point. The point is the size, the color, and the structure of the wood itself, regardless of the fact that it may chip out and come apart in different places. That's repairable. But you can't build a piece of wood like this, and they don't make them anymore.
From the outside with the breaking off or anything, it worked out
No,
okay?
you just hold your thumb, you know, right on the.
One of the advantages of doing this is you tilt the piece and you can compare the height
Got another
of
big
various
You
points
know the address
as you
there?
go look down the length of it,
Delton.
that the forehead is the same height here on both sides. You tilt it a little bit, the eyes start to become visible in the same place. Here, the eyelids become visible, the bottoms of the eyes, and tilt it up, and just, it all matches. So now I have to start working on thinning down this area in here. It's still a little too heavy. And working on the hair on the sides.
Are you carving tonight, Frank, over there?
Yeah.
Now, as you see me carving with these tools that I have laying in front of me, these are not the tools that I carved the majority of this with. I used my larger set of tools, mallet tools. I guess I'm more used to those almost than I am these here. I can do smaller pieces with these and some bigger ones with ones this size. But at home I have a larger set of tools I use with a carving stand.
Yes. Yeah, the muscles will be pulled back.
It's an expression of art, and I really enjoy taking a piece of wood and finding what's in the wood. I mean, I don't carve from a lot of found wood. A lot of people do. They'll carve from driftwood, firewood. Some of the cottonwood bark gets to be found wood too. You carve what you see in the wood. Myself, I guess over the years have found that I like to carve people. In particular, I like to carve women's faces. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy making beauty out of a piece of wood. It's also perhaps a legacy that I can pass on in both the pieces themselves and the talent that I can pass on to other people too. For one thing with tool marks is, in today's industrial age, you can look at a carving and see the tool marks and feel that this is the real piece rather than something that's really smooth and could be a resin piece from China. But trying to promote the art, I try and get the best pieces that I can get and do justice to the wood. Like the friend of mine from Crookston that furnishes me these big pieces of special cottonwood bark, he will find and save these pieces for me because he knows I can do justice to the wood. And he says there's not very many people I trust these kind of pieces of wood with. You're one of them, he said. So I feel kind of a little honored that way too, that he picks me to give these pieces of wood to. So he's been mentoring me along for quite a few years. He was seeing some talent that I had back in '04 when I started, and has kind of nurtured it along, and now he and we're good friends, and you know, we get together as often as we can. We frequently come to Gallery North to display our pieces. The gallery asks us to come up and fill in spots for featured artists a couple times a year, and we come up and gladly do that so we can display our work, show the public some of the stuff that we do, and everybody gets a chance to see it. We have a couple of carver members, Les Sanders and Frank Barra, and we also are fortunate enough today to have the Wood Carver of the Year. Rick Jensen from Crookston is here. He's also a member of our club and comes over frequently. And he and I have been good friends for years, and he's actually my mentor for my carving experience. Rick and I have known one another since 2004, and he is known nationally and even worldwide as the father and originator of cottonwood bark carving in this country. He has done more to revolutionize and influence cottonwood bark carving than any man in the country, and that's not an exaggeration at all. Any carving show you go to in the country, you will see his influence sitting on the tables. If not a direct imitation, you can see his style influence on each table there. And he's been my mentor for years. He's a good friend, and he's an expert carver, and he knows well what he's doing, especially in the field of cottonwood bark carving. Rick's carving with cottonwood bark, his whimsical houses and other pieces that he'd carved have evolved and changed over the years, and he's continually looking for a new method, a new technique, and a new way of enhancing the carvings that other people can take home. That's what keeps his classes fresh, and that's what keeps his customers, clients, and artists and students coming back to carve with him year after year, as he always comes up with something new.
I mean, you had it with you?
This is a piece I started last fall and have now completed, made out of cottonwood bark, and several others of mine are on the wall here also, along with pieces from the members of the club. No, there's a couple things I don't like about it. I don't like the way the grain lines run in it. You're stuck with whatever grain is in the wood. Sometimes it works to your advantage, and a lot of times it doesn't. You put up with it, you accept it, and it becomes part of the character of the piece. And I am tending less and less to carve faces in cottonwood bark because of that anymore. You know, some of the grain lines are quite noticeable, and you always end up with somebody commenting on how neat it is that you get those circles in the cheeks and on the end of the nose, and how did you manage to work that out? It's like contour maps on the ground. Your high points show up better than the low points do. But it is detracting to have these lines like this in the grain, and there's nothing you can do about it until you carve it and find out where the grain lines end up. This is a significant piece of bark in that it's quite large and thick. It must be 6 inches wide and 5 or 6 inches thick. And as my friend Rick will say, that kind of face bark is not easy to come by anymore. So I really value these kind of pieces of bark. And it has come out quite nice. The facial features came out nice. It holds detail well. I like that about this bark, in that it holds the detail well. The color's good. There's basically no finish on it right now. I had it finished with lacquer and it was too dark. I took the lacquer off, and this is the unfinished piece that's basically just hand rubbed with a rag to make it nice and smooth and a little bit shining. And actually I'm quite pleased with it. She come out pretty good. Well, it isn't the first piece I've ever carved for cottonwood bark. Obviously there are several others along here too. Each piece is unique. It's going to be soft in some spots, hard in some spots. Some bark holds detail better than others. Some bark is so hard that it's really hard to carve it, and others is so soft that you literally, it won't hold detail at all. It just falls apart. I'm not going to say I'm not going to carve it, but I realize the shortcomings of carving it in cottonwood. It would be better with full figure pieces in it, and even that, again, you end up with the contour lines, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. But facial detail in cottonwood bark is often overlooked because of the grain lines that show up. Working on pieces like this with the Wood Carving Club, everybody kind of pays attention to what other people are doing. And if they can pick up a few pointers from something I'm doing, that's great. And by the same token, I pick up pointers from what other people are doing also. It's a collaborative effort down there that everybody helps everybody in what they're doing. Each person has something that they may know a little better. Some people have birds, some people have animals, some people have faces, some people have flower work and caricature work, and we just help one another as best we can. If you have a problem, you ask, and somebody is going to have a better answer for you. Bemidji Wood Carvers Club went down to the shores of Lake Bemidji at the Rotary Pavilion and showed some of our stuff, and it was a beautiful fall day. The number of people we had down there in the club was good. We had some wonderful pieces of art that were shown.
It was lots of fun down there, seeing everybody's items that they had carved up, and I had the lucky job of running the turntable. So I got a close-up view of everybody's item. It was just lots of fun, good camaraderie with everybody out there. The Viking ship was actually out of the ordinary from the normal carvings that people would do, but it also was very intricate, and the items that he had used and put together, it was really interesting as to how he did it, and the finished product was just beautiful. One of the items that we had that we were showing was carved out of a moose antler, which is not typically what people would be carving because it's not wood, but it was still a lot of intricate artistry work on it, and it's associated with wood carving somewhat.
I think the biggest thing would be that there's a varied amount of talent here, and that each of us carve different things. We don't carve the same things. We have bird carvers, we have fish carvers, we have relief carvers and chip carvers and face carvers. I think that the thing that would be hardest to determine is the amount of talent that we have here. There's a lot of talent. Not all of it sitting at the table, but most of it is, and there's some talented people here. If anyone should wish to learn about wood carving, a good place to start would be to come down to the Senior Center in the basement And the Bemidji Wood Carvers Club will have someone there that will ably and willingly assist you to get started in wood carving. You can expect people that are friendly, knowledgeable, and more than willing to help as best they can. We have tools for loan. We can furnish you with ideas and wood, and there will always be help to complete the pieces or get them started. And various artists have various techniques and things that they like to carve down there. So you'll always find different things to carve and not just the same thing over and over. One of the things that I know people enjoy down there is it's warm and it's safe and there's good parking and there's always people around, rather than out at some place where it's, 30 below zero, the car don't start, it's at night and it's dark. And this is a good place. It's downtown, the parking is good, and it's just a friendly place to come to share everybody's talents and work.
Thank you so much for watching. Join us again next week for another episode of Common Ground. If you have an idea for a Common Ground piece that pertains to North Central Minnesota, email us at legacy@lptv.org or call us at 218-333-3014. To view any episode of Common Ground online, visit us at lptv.org. To order episodes or segments of Common Ground, call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people November 4th, 2008. If you enjoyed this episode of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.